Among thousands of alien races, only a human dared to defend her. What followed was more than a rescue. It was the beginning of passion betrayal and truth the galaxy feared.
The Xandarian marketplace was never quiet. It pulsed with sound and motion, a heart of chaos beating beneath the twin suns of the planet. The air smelled of 100 spices, acrid fumes from repulsor engines, and the salt of alien sweat. Traders bellowed in tongues I only half recognized, bargaining over crates of bioluminescent fish jewelry spun from crystallized nebula dust, or stacks of weapon parts scavenged from forgotten wars. To most, the bazaar was overwhelming, a riot of color and noise that pressed in from every side. To me, it was just another stop on another job. I had walked through worse. Mercenary work hardened you fast. By the time you had seen your third planetary war zone, marketplaces like this barely registered as more than logistical headaches. Still, I adjusted the combat vest on my shoulders, making sure my sidearm rested snugly against my hip. My gray suit had grown tight in the months since I had signed on with the Crimson Talon. The work, brutal as it was, had filled me with muscle. Being built like a tank helped when the galaxy expected you to survive jobs no sane man would accept. A vendor with 6 arms and gill slits shouted about Gorillian peppers, the spiciest in the quadrant. He waved one under my nose. My eyes watered instantly. I muttered something that sounded polite, waved him off, and pushed through the crowd. I wasn't here for culinary thrills. The Talon needed supplies, rations, replacement parts, basic medicine. Our next contract loomed on Vega Prime. Nothing complicated, extract a scientist, collect the pay, fly away. Simple jobs paid less, but they kept your blood inside your body. Or so I thought. It happened in that way. The universe always seemed to conspire when you weren't looking, when you were just trying to mind your own damn business. A flicker of movement caught my eye 3 stalls away. At first, I thought I was just distracted by something bright in the crush of bodies. Then I saw her. She looked human at a distance, humanoid at least, but closer inspection shattered the illusion. Her skin glowed with a turquoise sheen, a living ocean captured in flesh. Long silver hair, metallic and liquid, all at once tumbled down her back like spilled starlight. She wore a black bodysuit that clung to her frame, sleek lines emphasizing every curve, and yet none of that was what made me pause mid-stride. It was her eyes, turquoise irises wide with panic, darting like a trapped animal's. A hulking figure advanced on her, towering even over the tallest Xandarians. His skin resembled granite jagged plates, shifting as he moved. Each arm was thick as my thigh, corded with unnatural strength. A gleaming helmet rested on his stone skull, and in his hand a blade shimmered sharp enough to split atoms. He bellowed with a voice like gravel in a meat grinder. "Thief, you steal from Crawl, you lose hand." The crowd tightened instantly. The air vibrated with hungry anticipation. Alien eyes turned toward the scene, gleaming with the same cruel curiosity predators show when blood hits the water. The woman backed away, clutching a bag of vegetables. Just vegetables. Her body trembling, though she tried to keep her chin high. "I paid," she pleaded, her voice musical even in fear. "Credits are at the register. I swear it." Crawl raised his blade higher, lying alien film. A murmur rippled outward. No one moved to help. They never do. In places like this, justice is a spectator sport and mercy is weakness. I should have walked on. This wasn't my business. Every instinct honed by years of mercenary survival screamed at me to keep moving, to let the crowd have its show, to buy my supplies and forget her. That was the safe choice, the logical choice. But when her eyes, wide turquoise, desperate, met mine across the circle, something inside me cracked. Something I thought I had buried. Crawl's blade descended. My saber cleared its sheath before I even thought about it. Metal whispered against metal. I lunged forward, the marketplace blurring around me. My blade intercepted his in a shower of sparks, the shock rattling my arm all the way to the shoulder. The crowd gasped in unison. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Human Crawl snarled, pressing down with inhuman strength. "It's called stopping a murder." I growled back, my voice cold steel. "The lady says she paid. Check your register." "She lies," he spat. Her kind always lie. The tip of his blade had already sliced through her bag. A tomato-like fruit rolled across the dirt, split in half. Her palm dripped with a thin blue line of blood where the weapon had grazed her. I bared my teeth. You better check or this human will gut you like a fish. The vendor behind the stall grumbled, clearly annoyed that he had lost his little gladiatorial spectacle. Shuffling to his register, he muttered curses. Then grudgingly, credits here. She paid. Should have waited for receipt. The crowd groaned their thirst for violence denied. Crawl snarled, lowering his blade with reluctance. Lucky day, blue skin. Not luck, I snapped. Me. The woman touched my arm lightly. Her fingers were cool against my calloused skin. Thank you, she whispered. Stay with me, I ordered, backing us out of the circle, my saber still raised. Anyone wants to argue can try me next. We moved 20 paces before Crawl roared again behind us. Human, you make Crawl look weak. This not finished. He charged. I shoved her behind me and braced as his massive blade came down. The fight that followed blurred into instinct, parries that jarred my bones, kicks that dented armor. But barely slowed him, strikes that glanced off stone skin. He was slow but strong. Every blow threatened to split me in two. Run, I shouted at her. But she didn't run far. She stayed close, eyes locked on me, as though tethered by invisible strings. I feinted left, drove my boot into his knee, slammed my saber's pommel beneath his helmet. He staggered. That was enough. I grabbed her hands, slender, strong, impossibly cool, and we bolted the chaos of the market swallowing us as Crawl's roar chased us into the maze of alleys. We sprinted through the maze of stalls, knocking over baskets of fruit and sending vendors cursing in half a dozen languages. Behind us, Crawl's furious bellows reverberated like thunder, shaking the marketplace. Every step pounded the same thought into my skull: I should never have gotten involved. But my grip on her hand tightened, and I knew I wouldn't undo the choice, even if I could. She moved with surprising agility, weaving around carts and crates, her long silver hair whipping behind her like a comet's tail. The bag of vegetables she had been accused of stealing bounced at her side, stubbornly clutched despite the chaos. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I thought it was ridiculous risking her life over tomatoes and herbs. But then again, maybe that was all she had. This way, I barked, yanking her down a narrow alley barely wide enough for two. The noise of the marketplace dimmed behind us, swallowed by the echoing hum of ventilation shafts and dripping condensation. The further we ran, the cooler the air became, heavy with the metallic tang of industrial runoff. We ducked into shadow, pressing ourselves against the wall as a pair of security drones zipped past the alley's mouth. Their scanners cast sweeping beams of red light over the crowd beyond, searching for us. Of course, word would spread fast. Interfering in a public justice display wasn't just frowned upon, it was practically heresy. The authorities didn't like disruptions to the status quo, especially when humans were the ones causing them. I risked a glance at her. She leaned against the wall, breathing hard, chest rising and falling with rapid rhythm. Sweat glistened faintly against her turquoise skin, catching the dim glow of neon signs overhead. Yet when she noticed me looking, she smiled, soft, incongruous, with the danger snapping at our heels. What's so funny? I demanded, more gruffly than I intended. Her eyes sparkled with amusement. Your face, when you realized his skin was too tough for your blade, you looked absolutely outraged. I couldn't help it, I snorted. Yeah, well, wasn't my finest moment. Her laugh was light musical, a sound that didn't belong in the filthy alleys of Zendaria. For a moment, the tension in my shoulders eased. Then I remembered we were still being hunted. We can't stay here, I said, straightening. Come on. We zigzagged through back streets, following the less crowded routes where the smells shifted from spices and smoke to rust and rot. Twice more we spotted security drones sweeping low, their scanners buzzing angrily. Each time I pulled her against me, shielding her with my bulk until the machines passed. The contact was brief but electric, her cool, smooth skin against my armor, her breath brushing my neck. I told myself it was just adrenaline, but my heartbeat betrayed me. Finally, when the sound of pursuit faded, I allowed us to stop in a quiet corner behind what looked like an apothecary. Alien herbs hung in bundles overhead, filling the air with a sharp medicinal fragrance. She leaned back against the wall, still holding the tattered bag of produce. I noticed then that her palm, the one Crawl's blade had grazed, was already healing. The blue cut had closed into a faint line, leaving no blood. "You're hurt," I said, taking her hand without thinking. "It's nothing," she replied quickly, though she didn't pull away. "It will heal." Her eyes met mine, bright turquoise pools that seemed to hold too many secrets. Something passed between us then, something sharp and unsettling. It felt as if she were looking straight through the hardened shell I'd built around myself, seeing the man I thought had died years ago. I let her hand go, suddenly aware I'd been holding it too long. "Why did you help me?" she asked softly. The question caught me off guard. Seemed like the right thing to do. Most humans wouldn't have interfered. "I'm not most humans." She smiled faintly, and it was dangerous how beautiful that smile was. "No, I don't think you are." The silence that followed was thick, charged. I shifted my weight, uncomfortable with how easily she disarmed me without even trying. I'd faced pirates, warlords, and corporate enforcers without flinching, but one alien woman with ocean-colored skin had me fumbling like a raw recruit. So I said, clearing my throat, "What now? Where are you headed?" Her smile faltered, replaced by a shadow of uncertainty. "I don't know. I was supposed to meet someone here, but they never came." "You've got somewhere to go, at least." She shook her head. The silver strands of her hair caught the neon light, shimmering like liquid mercury. "Not anymore." I exhaled slowly. It wasn't my responsibility. She wasn't my problem. But the words that came out betrayed me. "I've got a ship to catch, Crimson Talon. We're leaving soon. You could tag along, at least until you figure things out." Her eyes widened slightly, then softened. "I would like that," she said simply. "I think I'll stick with you for a while, Ryan." The way she said my name sent an unexpected warmth through me. I almost told her not to get too comfortable, that mercenary life wasn't safe for anyone, let alone a stranger accused of theft. But instead, I just nodded. We moved again carefully this time, slipping back toward the main thoroughfare. The marketplace had returned to its usual chaos, but I noticed more drones hovering overhead, now their lenses sweeping suspiciously. Word of our skirmish had spread faster than I'd hoped. "Keep your head down," I murmured, placing a guiding hand on her lower back. Her body tensed at the contact, then relaxed. "Those drones are probably scanning for us." "Who exactly is your employer?" she asked as we ducked under a hanging sign. "Captain Doran Vex runs a freelance extraction team on the Talon. Signed on with him 3 months ago." "Extractions," she repeated, her turquoise eyes narrowing. "You mean kidnappings?" "Not usually," I said with a dry snort. "Mostly rescuing corporate idiots who got in over their heads. Retrieving stolen property. That kind of thing. Legitimate? Mostly." She raised a brow. "And this mission, Vega Prime. Scientist wants to defect from the Marich. Nothing too complicated." I tried to sound casual, but the truth was that nothing in our line of work was ever uncomplicated. I could feel her studying me, weighing my words, but she said nothing. As we reached the edge of the market district, the sprawling spaceport loomed ahead, towers of steel and glass, under the pale glow of the twin suns. Massive ships docked along platforms, their hulls reflecting light like silver blades. Dock workers shouted, loading crates, fueling engines. It was noisy, crowded, and perfect for disappearing. "Docking Bay 17, I muttered, checking the display on my wrist. "We've got about 20 minutes before departure." A booming voice cut through the din. "Ryan?" I stiffened instinctively. Only one man's voice carried that much authority, wrapped in irritation. I turned to see Captain Doran Vex himself striding toward us. His thick beard bristled his barrel chest, filling the space between him and anyone foolish enough to be in his way. His eyes, sharp as plasma cutters, swept from me to the woman at my side. "Captain," I said, straight straightening, "I was just heading back." "Change of plans," he growled. "We're leaving now. And who the hell is this?" Claria stepped forward before I could speak. "I'm Claria. Ryan helped me with a misunderstanding in the marketplace." Vex's expression didn't soften. "Is that so?" "Well, isn't that heroic?" His tone dripped with disapproval. "We don't have time for strays, Ryan. The job's been moved up." "She needs passage off-world," I said quickly. "Maybe we could." "Not happening," Vex snapped. "This isn't a passenger liner." Claria touched my arm lightly. "It's all right, Ryan. I can find another way." Something in her voice, resigned, weary, set my teeth on edge. No, wait, I turned to Vex. What if she comes as my responsibility? I'll vouch for her. She's with me. Vex raised a bushy brow. You're willing to stake your cut on a stranger? Yes, the word came out sharper than I expected. For a long moment, Vex studied me. Then with a gruff laugh, he shook his head. You've got balls. I'll give you that. His eyes shifted to Claria. Can you handle yourself in a fight, Blue? Claria's posture changed instantly. Graceful, predatory, dangerous. I can hold my own. We'll see, Vex muttered, turning back toward the docking bay. But she's your problem, Ryan. Any trouble and it's on your head. As he strode away, I exhaled slowly. Claria glanced at me, her expression unreadable. You didn't have to do that. I know I admitted feeling strangely exposed, but something tells me you're more than just a woman accused of stealing vegetables. A small smile curved her lips. Perhaps you're right. And just like that, I knew my life had shifted course. Whatever came next, Claria was now part of it. The Crimson Talon was not a beautiful ship. She was sleek in the way a knife was sleek, sharp edges stripped of ornament, built for survival. Her hull bore scars from past battles, gouges patched with mismatched alloys, burn marks around weapon ports, stress fractures that had been welded but never fully smoothed. To a civilian, she might have looked like a relic, one misfire away from disintegration. To me, she looked like home. Claria lingered at the base of the loading ramp, her turquoise eyes drinking in every detail of the vessel. There was wonder in her gaze, almost reverence, though she tried to mask it. I wondered when she'd last felt safe enough to stare at something without calculating the angles of escape. Don't get too attached, I muttered as I ushered her up the ramp. She's a temperamental beast. She's beautiful, Claria said softly. I almost laughed. Most people called the Talon many things, but never that. Inside, the corridors were narrow and functional, lined with exposed wiring and scuffed plating. The air smelled faintly of engine grease and recycled oxygen. Crew members bustled past us carrying crates, securing gear, running pre-flight checks. Some spared curious glances at Claria, but most didn't bother to hide their suspicion. Humans were rare enough in the galaxy. A silver-haired alien woman following one onto a mercenary ship was bound to raise eyebrows. Captain Doran Vex met us halfway down the main corridor. His sheer presence filled the space as though his barrel chest and heavy boots bent the walls inward. His beard was more steel than black now, and the deep creases around his eyes carried the weight of too many campaigns. Ryan, he said, his voice a low rumble. Your pet alien's slowing us down already. Claria stiffened beside me, but I raised a hand before she could speak. She's not a pet. She's coming with us. I vouch for her. Vex's eyes narrowed, and I agreed against my better judgment. Don't make me regret it. She'll pull her weight, I insisted. We'll see. His tone suggested he doubted it. With a jerk of his chin, he dismissed me. Get her settled. We lift in 5. As he stomped away, Claria leaned closer. He doesn't like me. He doesn't like anyone, I said. You'll get used to it. Her faint smile told me she wasn't convinced. The crew quarters were little more than rows of bunks, stacked into alcoves separated by thin partitions. Privacy was a luxury the Talon couldn't afford. I pointed out an empty bunk near mine. It's not much, I admitted. It's perfect, she said, placing her bag of salvaged vegetables on the mattress like it was priceless treasure. The way she touched the bag made me pause. To me, they were just scraps food you could buy for a handful of credits. To her, they seemed to mean something else entirely. I didn't ask. Not yet. The Talon's engines roared to life, shaking the deck beneath our boots. Through the porthole, Zendaria's sprawling spaceport shrank, replaced by the endless void. The transition from planetary gravity to artificial gravity was jarring as always. Claria braced against the wall, steadying herself. You'll get used to that too, I said. Her lips curved faintly. I seem to be hearing that a lot. We were barely an hour into the flight when Maddox appeared. He was the Talon's tech specialist, tall and lanky with cybernetic enhancements that gleamed faintly under the corridor lights. His eyes, mechanical and ever-whirring, seemed to focus on everything at once. Captain wants you, he said to me, then turned his gaze on Claria and her. Claria straightened, suspicion flickering across her face. What for, I asked. Maddox shrugged. Something about docking clearance being flagged. And an altercation in the marketplace, involving a human and a turquoise-skinned female. Sound familiar? My jaw tightened. Of course the Port Authority would have escalated. Interfering in public justice wasn't a misdemeanor, it was practically a planetary insult. When we entered the command deck, Vex stood at the helm, his posture tense. A holographic projection hovered above the console departure clearance marked with flashing red warnings. "They're stalling us," Maddox explained. "Somebody pulled strings to flag our clearance. And conveniently, there's an alert out for you two. Assaulting a security officer, resisting authority. The usual exaggerations." Vex's gaze snapped to me. "Want to tell me why my ship is suddenly on half the watch lists in the quadrant?" "It wasn't like that," I began. "Save it." He slammed a hand against the console, making the hologram flicker. "We're already a target, and now we're painted with a damn bullseye. You think I can run an extraction op with consortium hounds sniffing our trail?" Before I could reply, Claria stepped forward. "It's my fault. Ryan only helped me, if you need to." "No," I cut in sharply. "I vouched for you. That makes it my responsibility." Her turquoise eyes widened slightly, but she didn't argue. Vex studied us for a long, heavy moment. Then he exhaled through his nose like a bull deciding not to gore the matador. "Fine." Maddox bypassed the clearance. 5 minutes. 3, Maddox said with a grin, already working. Vex pointed a thick finger at me. "She causes trouble. It's your cut on the line." "You hear me, Ryan?" Loud and clear. We lifted off under emergency protocols, Injones screaming as Maddox's hacks forced clearance codes through. Within minutes, we were clear of Zendaria's orbit. The twin suns shrank into pinpricks behind us, and the void stretched endless ahead. Relief rippled through me, for now we were free. But the way Claria held herself told me freedom was fragile. She stood near the viewport, arms wrapped loosely around herself, watching the stars slip past. There was longing in her expression, but also fear, as though she had been running for a long time and every jump only delayed the inevitable. I joined her, leaning against the bulkhead. "You can relax, for the moment anyway." Her lips pressed together. I'm not sure I remember how. The honesty in her voice hit me harder than I expected. I wanted to tell her she was safe now, but the words felt like a lie. The galaxy was never safe, not for mercenaries and certainly not for fugitives. Still, I said the next best thing. "Whatever comes, you're not alone." Her spice had met mine, and for the briefest heartbeat, the hum of engines faded, the world narrowed, and it felt like the stars themselves held their breath. Then Maddox's voice shattered the moment. "Captain, we've got company." Vex cursed. Already, the tactical display lit up with approaching signatures, Port Authority patrol vessels moving fast. Claria's hand brushed mine, cool fingers lingering as alarms flared around us. "Seems the universe isn't done with us yet," I muttered. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. The hum of the Crimson Talon's engines usually settled into a rhythm, a heartbeat that steadied the nerves of even the greenest recruits. But that night, the pulse felt offbeat. Every shudder of the deck made my gut tighten, as if the ship itself anticipated trouble before the crew did. We'd shaken the Port Authority for the moment. Maddox hacks had bought us breathing room, but Vex's temper was still simmering. His orders crackled through the intercom: minimum chatter, maximum vigilance. No one relaxed, not when the captain's mood was darker than deep space. I found Claria in the mess hall, seated alone at a table, the faint glow of the overhead lights catching strands of her silver hair. She cradled a steaming mug between her slender fingers, as though its warmth anchored her. "You're supposed to be resting," I said, sliding into the seat across from her. Her turquoise eyes lifted, wary but steady. "And you?" "Resting's never been my specialty." She offered a faint smile, but it didn't last. Her gaze dropped to the mug. Silence stretched thick with the weight of unspoken truths. Finally, she whispered, "Ryan, there's something you should know." Before I could press, the mess hall door hissed open. Captain Vex stomped in, holding a data pad like a judge holding a sentence. His expression was carved from iron. "Your blue friend here," he said, tossing the pad onto the table. "She's not just a misunderstood shopper." The display glowed with an unmistakable image, Claria's face perfect, down to the luminescent sheen of her skin. Beneath it scrolled charges in bold crimson: espionage, theft of classified information, murder. A bounty figure flashed beneath the list, enough credits to buy a small moon. Claria's hands didn't shake. Her voice, when it came, was calm. "The charges are fabricated." "Of course they are," Vex said, sarcasm dripping. just like the misunderstanding in the marketplace, I suppose. I stood planting myself between them before the captain's temper ignited into something irreversible. Captain, give her a chance to explain. Vex's eyes bored into me. You've got 5 minutes. After that, I decide whether we cash in this very generous prize or not. He turned and stormed out, leaving the datapad's red glow like a warning flare between us. My pulse pounded. Murder, espionage, theft. That's not a misunderstanding, Claria. What the hell have I gotten us into? Her turquoise eyes met mine, filled not with panic, but with weary resignation. I didn't kill anyone, Ryan. But the rest. She drew a sharp breath. It's complicated. Then uncomplicated, I snapped. She leaned forward, voice low urgent. I worked for the Galactic Consortium, data analyst. I wasn't important. At least I wasn't supposed to be. But 6 months ago, I found something in the archives records buried so deep they weren't meant to be seen again. Something that could shift the balance of power across the galaxy. Her hand touched the table fingers, brushing invisible patterns, as though searching for courage. I found proof that humans aren't just another race. You were engineered. The word hit harder than any blade, engineered. My laugh was bitter. Engineered by who, for what? For war, she said simply. For survival. Thousands of years ago, long before your species learned to leave Earth's atmosphere, you were designed. Adaptability, resilience, aggression tempered with a compassion. It wasn't chance, it was deliberate. You were meant to be the galaxy's perfect soldiers. The room seemed to shrink. My memories of blood and fire from a dozen mercenary jobs suddenly twisted, reframed. Was it coincidence I had survived so many firefights? Or had I been crafted for it like a weapon forged and forgotten until rediscovered? Claria's voice softened. Someone powerful wants to ensure that truth never escapes. The consortium has suppressed it for centuries. If word spreads, every non-human faction in the galaxy will see humanity differently. As a threat, as a prize, as a weapon. And that makes you what I asked, my voice rough. A whistleblower, a fugitive. A target, she said. And now, so are you. Silence swelled between us, filled with the echoes of implications too heavy to name. The door hissed again. Vex returned, leaning against the frame, arms crossed. He had clearly been listening. His eyes glinted with calculation now, not anger. So let me get this straight, he said. You're telling me humans were designed as super soldiers, and the proof of it, the chip you're carrying, could turn the galaxy upside down. Claria nodded, her posture unflinching. Vex's beard twitched as a slow grin spread across his face. Well, isn't that something? That data's worth a hell of a lot more than your bounty. To the right buyer. My gut twisted. Captain. Relax, Ryan, Vex interrupted. I'm not handing her over. Not when we can make a much bigger profit elsewhere. Profit. That was always the currency, Vex spoke. Loyalty was negotiable. Trust was transactional. Claria exhaled, shoulders easing just slightly. But I wasn't convinced. The gleam in Vex's eyes wasn't safety, it was opportunity. So what's the plan, I asked warily. We continue to Vega Prime, Vex said, pacing toward the display. Extract the scientists, collect our payment, then see who's willing to pay top dollar for your girlfriend's little treasure. His finger stabbed the air toward Claria. But she stays on a short leash. Any hint she's playing us, and I'll personally deliver her to the consortium gift-wrapped. When he left again, the silence he left behind was suffocating. Claria's turquoise eyes found mine. Do you trust him? About as much as I trust a starving Varaxian in a meat locker, I muttered. Her lips curved faintly despite the weight of the moment, but her next words cut deeper. Then we don't have many options, do we? I sank into the seat beside her, our thighs brushing in the cramped space. The contact was grounding, reminding me I wasn't just fighting for an abstract truth, I was fighting for her. So I said, forcing my voice steady, engineered super soldiers. That why you've been stuck to me like glue, studying the specimen. Her eyes softened. At first, perhaps. But now her fingers brushed against mine, cool and deliberate. Now I stay because you make me feel safe. No one has ever defended me before. Not like you did. My throat tightened. I'm not special, Claria. Any decent person would have stepped in. But they didn't, she whispered. You did. Her hand rose, cupping my cheek. The chill of her skin contrasted with the fire coursing through me. Electricity raced down my spine. I swallowed hard. Claria. The ship lurched suddenly, alarms blaring. Red lights bathed the mess hall in a hellish glow. Vex's voice thundered over the intercom. All hands battle stations. We've got company. Claria's hand slipped from my cheek, replaced by urgency in her eyes. Nothing good, I muttered, pushing to my feet. Stay here. Her jaw set. I'm coming with you. I'm tired of running. For the first time, I believed her. And deep down, I knew the universe had just tilted on its axis, and humanity's place in it would never be the same. The crimson talon vibrated with tension, every corridor humming with the unsteady rhythm of engines straining at full burn. Outside, consortium enforcement ships had sniffed our trail like bloodhounds, their silhouettes lingering at the edge of our sensors. Inside, the crew moved like a hive, bracing for impact, checking weapons, muttering curses under their breath. But there was something else in the air thicker than fear's suspicion. Claria's revelation had shaken the crew in ways I couldn't yet measure. Whispers followed her down the corridors. Maddox's augmented eyes tracked her a little too closely. Breer, the stocky security officer, had started sleeping in his armor. Even the green recruits kept their hands near sidearms when she passed. Vex hadn't called a meeting to address the bounty or the secrets. He didn't need to. Everyone knew. And in mercenary crews, knowing meant paranoia. I kept close to Claria, partly out of protection, partly because I didn't trust myself not to. The connection between us had grown stronger, sharper, like a wire stretched too tight. She walked with her head high, refusing to shrink under their stares, but I saw the fatigue in her eyes. The burden she carried was heavier than the data chip hidden in her suit. The attack came during a lull. We'd just settled into hyperspace when the Talons shuddered violently, alarms shrieking. Maddox cursed from the console. We're being tracked in hyperspace. That's impossible, Vex barked. It shouldn't be possible, Maddox shot back, but someone's bleeding our coordinates to the consortium. The bridge fell silent, every eye narrowing, every suspicion sharpening. Captain Claria said, her voice steady, the consortium doesn't have the technology to track jumps. Someone on this ship is transmitting our location. The accusation hung in the air like a blade. Crew members shifted uncomfortably, hands twitching toward weapons. Vex's eyes narrowed into slits. Maddox scanned outgoing comms. Now. On it, the tech specialist muttered, fingers flying across his console. A moment later, his mechanical eyes whirred. Found something. Encrypted signal from the cargo bay. It's been live since we left Zendaria. Vex's jaw clenched. He turned to Breer. Take Ryan. Check it out. Shoot anything that twitches wrong. Breer nodded grimly, already checking the charge on his pulse rifle. I squeezed Claria's hand briefly before following him out. Stay on the bridge, I told her. You'll be safer here. Her gaze caught mine, sharp, unyielding. Be careful, Ryan. Whoever it is, they're desperate. The cargo bay was dim-lit only by strips of red emergency lighting. Shadows stretched long across stacked containers and loose equipment. The hum of the engines echoed like a heartbeat. Too many hiding spots, Breer muttered, sweeping his rifle in steady arcs. I don't like this. I scanned the rows, every instinct screaming ambush. Then I saw it, a small, blinking device clamped to a support beam. There I pointed. Breer moved toward it, rifle steady. That's when movement flickered above. Breer, I shouted. But it was too late. A figure dropped from the rafters with inhuman grace, 4 arms glinting in the dim light. Nix, one of our newer crew members. His mottled green skin blended almost perfectly with the shadows. 2 of his hands slashed with a blade, catching Breer across the throat before the man could even turn. Blood sprayed hot and metallic as Breer collapsed without a sound. The other 2 arms were already raising a blaster toward me. I dove behind a crate as energy bolts sizzled past, searing the metal. My sidearm was in my hand before I realized I'd drawn it. You're making a mistake, Human Nix called, his voice eerily calm. The consortium will find her eventually. Why should we all die protecting her? Because it's the right thing to do, I snarled, firing blind around the corner. Sparks exploded, but no scream followed. Nix's laugh was hollow. Right, wrong, such human words. The galaxy doesn't care about morality. It runs on profit and survival. That data she carries will destabilize everything. Better to bury the truth than unleash it. I edged around the other side of the crate trying to spot him. Shadows move too many too fast. So you'd rather live as a servant than fight for something bigger, I demanded. His voice slithered closer. You don't even know what you're fighting for. Humans were created as weapons. Unstoppable, unpredictable weapons. Do you know what it's like to live beside a species designed for war? The rest of us have every reason to fear you. I caught his shadow shifting and fired. My bolt clipped his shoulder. He hissed, but instead of retreating, he came closer, blades flashing. We crashed together behind a stack of containers grappling in the half-dark. His extra limbs gave him an edge. One hand crushed my wrist until my blaster clattered to the floor. Another coiled around my throat, cutting off air. You humans? He spat, his face inches from mine, jagged teeth bared. So arrogant. So sure the galaxy belongs to you. My vision blurred as his grip tightened. In desperation, I slammed my forehead into his nose. The crunch was sickening but effective. His hold loosened just enough for me to wrench free. I scrambled for my weapon, but Nix was faster. His blade sliced across my back, fire exploding along my spine. Riot. Claria's voice rang out from the bay entrance. Nix whirled, blaster rising. Time slowed. I couldn't reach him in time. Couldn't stop him. Claria, get back, I shouted, lunging anyway. But before Nix could fire, his body jerked violently, a smoking hole erupting from his chest. He collapsed forward, revealing Captain Vex behind him, heavy blaster still smoking. Nobody betrays my crew, Vex growled, stepping over the corpse. Claria rushed to my side, her cool hands already probing the wound on my back. You're bleeding. I've had worse, I managed, though the pain blurred the edges of my vision. Vex crouched beside us, examining the transmitter device. His expression was grim. Clever bastard. He's been feeding them our coordinates since Zendaria. He crushed the device under his boot. Maddox is working on a way to lose our tail. Can you walk? I nodded, leaning heavily on Claria as I stood. Her grip was steady, grounding me in the chaos. Get him to medical, Vex ordered. We're not done yet. As she helped me from the cargo bay, I caught the look in her eyes. Concern, yes, but something more. Something fierce, almost possessive. You could have died, she whispered once we were alone. For me. I tried to grin through the pain. Typical human impulsiveness, right? Her fingers tightened on my arm. No, it's what makes you remarkable. Despite the blood soaking my armor, despite the danger still clawing at our heels, I knew I'd make the same choice again. Not because of her secret, not because of what she carried, but because she was worth it. The med bay stank of antiseptic and recycled air, the faint hiss of autosealer stitching my back together. I gritted my teeth against the sting. Claria's cool hands pressed salve into the fresh wound, her touch steady, even as the ship shuddered under enemy fire. You're lucky, she murmured, her turquoise eyes fixed on my battered skin. The blade missed anything vital. Doesn't feel lucky, I muttered, the pain sharp enough to cut through adrenaline. Her lips curved faintly. Humans always complain about the small things. Getting stabbed is minor for a species engineered to survive the impossible. I forced a laugh that came out as more of a grunt. That's one hell of a pep talk. Before she could respond, the ship lurched violently, throwing her against me. I caught her reflexively, ignoring the flare of pain. Her breath brushed my throat, her hair a silver curtain against my cheek. For one dangerous heartbeat, the world shrank to just her weight in my arms. Then the intercom blared, all hands to the bridge, now. We stumbled into the corridor, emergency lights painting everything in a bloody glow. The walls trembled as another blast rattled the hull. By the time we reached the bridge, chaos had erupted into full-scale desperation. Maddox's cybernetic eyes flickered as he spat numbers. Shields at 28%, one more direct hit, and we're dust. On the main screen, a consortium destroyer loomed behind us, sleek and predatory. And worse, two more ships were en route, their trajectories closing like jaws. Options, Vex barked, his knuckles white on the console. We can't outrun them, Maddox said flatly. Hyperdrive's damaged, sublight only. Then we make a stand. Vex's voice was steel, but his eyes flicked to me, to Claria. He knew what they were after. He knew how slim our chances were. Claria stepped forward, her face resolute. Let me speak to them. I'll surrender myself. One life versus an entire crew. Not happening. I cut in instantly, grabbing her arm. It's the logical solution, she argued. They want me, not you. We're not trading lives, I snapped. My voice carried sharper than I intended, but I didn't care. There has to be another way. Vex's glare silenced us both. He jabbed a finger toward the viewport. They're not negotiating. They'll burn us all if we don't act. The ship rocked again, sparks showering from the ceiling. I braced myself against a console, brain racing. Outgunned, outnumbered, no hyperspace, no chance unless... I studied the tactical overlay of the region ahead. An asteroid field loomed a swirling mass of jagged rocks and unstable cores. Maddox had flagged it as suicidal to enter, which meant the consortium would never expect us to dive straight into it. I have an idea, I said. Vex's eyes narrowed. This better be good hotshot. We can't beat them with firepower, but maybe we can blind them, the asteroids. Maddox, what's their composition? The tech's eyes spun data scrolling across them, mostly ferrous metals high density, some with volatile cores, unstable compounds. Perfect, I said. We trigger a chain reaction. Blow the biggest cluster to hell. The explosion blinds their sensors long enough for us to scatter. Vex folded his arms. And then what? We're still limping, still outgunned. Then we make them chase ghosts. We split the data into multiple escape pods, some real, most decoys. They won't know which to follow. The confusion buys us time. The bridge fell silent. Maddox's brows rose. It could work. Risky as hell, but it could. Vex studied me for a long moment, then barked a laugh. You're insane. I like it. He slapped the console. Charge pulse cannons, target the asteroid cluster, everyone else prep pods. Claria touched my arm as the crew scrambled. Ryan, what you're suggesting? The odds are... I don't care about the odds, I said, cupping her face, my forehead pressing to hers. I'm not letting them take you. Not now, not ever. Her turquoise eyes searched mine, softening. Why risk everything for me? Because some things I whispered are worth dying for. Her lips parted as if to answer, but Vex's bark shattered the moment. Pods ready, cannons charged, let's dance. The Talon dove into the asteroid field, rocks tumbling around us like Titan's bones. The ship groaned, systems straining against gravitational eddies. On the screen, the consortium destroyer pursued its weapons primed. Now Vex roared. The cannons fired. Twin beams of energy lanced into the heart of the asteroid cluster. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the first rock exploded, igniting its volatile core. A cascade followed one after another, detonations rippling outward until blinding light consumed the field. The bridge dimmed automatically, but still the glare seared my eyes. Radiation washed across sensors, scrambling signatures. Maddox shouted, "They're blind! Their systems can't see us!" "Launch pods," Vex ordered. The ship jolted as hatches opened, pods ejecting into the maelstrom. Each one carried fragments of the data signals broadcasting in scattered frequencies. Ours carried the real chip and us. I strapped into the cramped pod with Claria beside me, her fingers entwined with mine. Through the viewport, I saw the Chaos Consortium ships firing blindly, pods scattering like stars, asteroids breaking apart in fire. For a moment, hope flared. Then the Crimson Talons shuddered. Warning lights screamed. Maddox's panicky voice crackled over comms. Reactors compromised, cores unstable. "Get out," I shouted into the mic. "Abandoned ship." Vex's voice came back steady, unflinching. "Negative. Someone has to buy you time. Maddox, get the others out." "That's an order." "Captive, that's an order." My throat clenched. "Vex, don't do this." His rough laugh echoed through the pod's speakers. "Someone's got to hold the line, Ryan. Besides, if anyone's going to go out flipping the bird to the consortium, it's me." Claria's hand squeezed mine, her eyes wide with sorrow. "Ryan." The last thing I saw of the Crimson Talon was her silhouette turning toward the destroyer's engines, flaring one final defiant blaze. Then she erupted, reactor core detonating in a cataclysm that lit the asteroid field like a newborn star. The shock wave hurled our pods spinning into darkness. I slammed my fist against the viewport, rage and grief burning through me. "Damn it, Vex." Claria's hand covered mine steady, despite the tears shimmering in her eyes. He made his choice. For us. I wanted to argue, to scream, to promise vengeance. But the words died. Because she was right. His sacrifice had given us a chance, and we couldn't waste it. We drifted engines, dead power rationed to minimal systems. Hours passed, each one heavy with silence. Claria leaned against me, her head resting on my shoulder, her breath steady despite everything. I wrapped an arm around her, grounding myself in her presence. The scanner pinged weakly, a signal, not consortium independent. The Stellar Horizon, I read aloud. An old trading vessel out of New Terra Colony. Human. Claria lifted her head in surprise, flickering across her face. Humans. Yeah, I whispered, hope flickering in my chest. Not consortium. Maybe, just maybe we're not alone in this fight. As the horizon closed in, Claria's cool fingers slipped into mine again. Together, she whispered. Together, I echoed, watching the stars shift around us, knowing the fight was far from over. But for the first time since the marketplace, I felt something dangerous. I felt hope. The stellar horizon wasn't much to look at, but after watching the crimson talon blaze into nothingness, the battered freighter felt like salvation. Its hull bore scars of 1,000 jumps, paint-faded thrusters patched with whatever parts fit. But its beacon was human, and in that moment, that was all that mattered. Captain Hannah Watts met us in her mess hall. A woman weathered by years of hard trade runs her short gray hair, tucked under a patched flight cap. Her eyes, sharp but not unkind, studied me and Claria like she was weighing every risk of letting us aboard. Your trouble, she said bluntly. Not arguing, I replied. Her gaze shifted to the data chip Claria held, and that bigger trouble. Claria placed the chip on the table, her fingers lingering on it as if reluctant to let go. This contains proof that humans were engineered. Genetic markers, suppressed records, everything the consortium has buried for centuries. Watts leaned back, folding her arms. I've heard whispers, rumors that we're more than we seem. Never figured I'd see proof. She turned to me. What do you plan to do with it, mercenary? The word carried weight, mercenary, as if it summed up everything she expected of me, self-serving, reckless, disposable. I glanced at Claria. Her turquoise eyes held mine steady, unwavering. She gave a small nod. Not sell it, I said firmly. Not use it as a weapon. Share it. Humanity deserves to know its origins. And the galaxy deserves the truth, not to fear us, but to understand. Watts studied me for a long moment. Then to my surprise, she smiled. Good answer. You're on the right ship. The Horizon's not just a trader. We're part of a network, humans and allies, who believe the consortium's grip on truth has gone unchecked too long. You found us at the right time. For the first time since Zandaria, the tension in my chest eased. Maybe Vex's sacrifice hadn't been in vain. Maybe we weren't as alone as I feared. Later in the cramped cabin, Watts assigned us Claria curled against me beneath a thermal blanket. The hum of the Horizon's engines was softer than the Talon's, less like a war drum, more like a heartbeat at rest. What happens now? She asked softly, her breath cool against my chest. I traced the faint, luminescent markings on her shoulder, glowing faintly in the dim light. We keep going, we share what we found, and we face whatever comes next. Together. Her head lifted, silver hair tumbling around her face. Together, she echoed, a small, fierce smile curving her lips. I kissed her then, not out of adrenaline or desperation, but with quiet certainty. Her lips were cool, yielding, and for the first time it felt less like escape and more like arrival. But peace never lasted. A week later, the Horizon docked at a hidden outpost, one of the network's safe harbors carved into an asteroid rich with iron. Traders, refugees, and smugglers mingled freely, united by one thing: defiance of the consortium. Watts introduced us to her contacts, scientists, smugglers, even a few alien dissidents. When Claria revealed the chip, murmurs spread through the gathered crowd. Some looked at me with awe, others with fear. A pale-skinned alien with vertical pupils hissed, "If humans were engineered as weapons, then you're dangerous. Why should we trust you?" I stepped forward before Claria could answer. Because we choose what we are. Whatever some ancient architects designed us for, we decide our future. Not them, not the consortium. Us. The words surprised even me, but they rang true. The crowd murmured again, this time softer, considering. Afterward, Claria slipped her hand into mine. You spoke like a leader, she said. I shook my head. I'm no leader. Her smile was knowing. Maybe not yet, but humanity might need one. That night, in the quiet of our cabin, she confessed something that lodged itself deep in me. In my culture, she whispered, tracing patterns on my chest, life debts create bonds, sacred ones. You've saved me more times than I can count. By tradition, I should never leave your side. I caught her wrist, feeling the quickened pulse beneath my fingers. Is that the only reason you stay obligation? Her turquoise eyes darkened soft but fierce. No, I stay because I want to. Because when I'm with you, I'm not just running anymore. I'm alive. The words sank into me like anchors steadying the chaos inside. I kissed her slow and sure, and for once the galaxy felt distant, unimportant. But the galaxy never stayed distant for long. 3 days later, alarms wailed through the horizon. Consortium vessels had been spotted on long-range scans patrolling Hunting. The net was tightening. Watts called an emergency meeting. They're getting bolder. If they catch us with that chip, they'll erase this station, burn the horizon, and bury the truth all over again. We need to move fast. All eyes turned to Claria and me. She stood tall, her silver hair catching the dim light, her voice steady. Then we spread the truth before they can stop us. Not to one faction, not to the highest bidder, but everywhere. Broadcast it, release it to every network, every station. Make it impossible to bury again. Some gasped, others nodded slowly. Watts leaned back, a smile tugging at her weathered lips. Reckless. Bold. I like it. Her eyes cut to me. And you ready to light the match that could start a galactic war? I hesitated only a moment. Then I took Claria's hand, lifting it for all to see. Not war, not if we can help it, but the truth matters more than safety. And if the galaxy fears what humans are, then let them see us as we are protectors, not weapons. The room erupted in voices, some in agreement, some in fear. But the decision had been made. The chip would be shared. The consortium's grip would break. Later, alone with Claria, I admitted the thought gnawing at me. What if Nix was right? I asked quietly. What if we are weapons? What if the galaxy has every reason to fear us? She touched my cheek, her luminescent patterns glowing softly beneath her fingers. Then prove them wrong. Show them what I see, a man who risked everything for a stranger who fights not for profit or survival, but because it's right. That is what makes you human, Ryan. That is what makes you more than a weapon. Her words settled in me like fire in the dark, lighting a path I hadn't realized I was already walking. Our final night aboard the Horizon before departure, we stood at the viewport together. Stars wheeled past, infinite and indifferent. Her silver hair brushed my shoulder, her turquoise eyes reflecting the cosmos. I didn't save you because of a data chip I didn't know existed, I told her. I didn't fight for you because you're the key to humanity's past. I did it because something in me recognized something in you, and I'm not letting that go. Her markings glowed brighter as she smiled, her voice soft. In my culture, there is a belief that souls can recognize each other across species, across time. Some connections are written in the stars. Perhaps that's why I won't leave your side. Or maybe I tease gently, you just like the view. She laughed, kissed me, and for that heartbeat, the universe felt conquerable. The consortium would come again. Allies and enemies would rise. The truth would bring chaos and danger in battles yet to be fought. But as I held Claria in my arms, the stars stretching infinite before us, I felt ready. Because if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was facing the unknown, with courage, defiance, and love. And this time we wouldn't be facing it alone.